chapter 20. I'll dedicate the shore to my beloved sister, Sarah Bela Bat Alter Yaakov. Many shurim in the Hebrew department. Since I have a good friend that's in charge of all these dedications, he offered for free, like free a month, free of dedications of shurim in the Hebrew department with my sister's name on the screen. So we should do one in English at least, shouldn't we? Ken. We've read through and viewed chapter 19. And let's try to make some understandings or conclusions. We're learning about one of the most terrible atrocities that can be stated in the Tanakh, which will lead up to something even greater, which will be a civil war, Milchemet Achim. And if from a value point of view we observe the actions of both the Levi from Ephraim and or the not do a lot, but that's something. And if we view the older men from Ephraim, we can conclude that both their actions are not proper, to say the least. Maybe we'll drink the water. I should have drinking the water, gone in your derech. Now, whether we say that a Pilegesh is a married woman or not a married woman, we're clearly saying, we learn from the halakha, from the Rambam, that we don't cooperate, not with murderers, not with adulterers. And therefore, both the old man from Ephraim that wanted to offer his daughter and Pilegesh for these cruel men, and both the action of the Levi from Ephraim that he did offer his own Pilegesh, certainly it's terrible, and it's showing us what level they are on. At the same time, the people in the town, called in the Perek Bnei Belial. Why are they called Bnei Belial? They're Belial. They are ruthless. They are unlawful. Don't behave according to norms of society here in the land of Israel. We certainly saw a similarity to the actions of the people in Stone. But we mentioned the end of yesterday's shiur, and the people in Stone, we said it was something of ideology, something that this is the way of life that they collected together and drew up in a constitution, may it be, and decided that's the way of life they want to live. In kindness to people. Whereas here we see, as the Malbim explains, these people are acting out of their lust, out of their desires to do terrible things, either men with men or raping this woman as they did. But we noticed, so there's a difference between ideology and people, that they're the lowest of the earth as far as their lust and their desires. Another difference we noticed, that here it's only Anshe B'nai Belial that is doing it. It doesn't mean that all the people in the town are Anshe Belial. Whereas the people in Stone, there it says, Minar V'ad Zaken. The people that surrounded the house of Lot, Minar, from a nar, a young person, V'ad Zaken, until a elderly person, they're representing all the parts of society in Stone. Even though it's a terrible thing. It's more that they fall for the lust and their desires. And this idea, the Ramban relies upon the words of Yechezkel, the prophet, in chapter 16, where he relates to the sin of the people of Sodom. So that's a clear difference between the two, the people of Sodom. One more point. Givah, in the village of the tribe of Binyamin, is a regular city. It's a regular city of the Benjamite region of the land of Israel, whereas Sodom is known to be a city of a wicked people. Vanshe Sodom, like we mentioned yesterday, Ra'im v'chataim la'Hashem me'od. You know, the Torah is very direct and very to the point often, and it doesn't just use superlatives. And if it says that they're ra'im and they're chataim, they're sinful and they're wicked to God, me'od, there's no exaggeration. Okay? Now, let's treat the next party. We've treated the terrible people of Bnei Belial of Givah. We treated the Zakein who's living in Givah. We treated the guest, Mr. Levi from the Ephraim, giving up his Pilegesh. Now let's see the behavior of the Jewish people. At the end of the chapter, this Levi does a terrible thing, cuts up this woman into pieces, sends it out to the tribes of Israel, and everyone that notices or sees it says nothing has ever happened in Jewish history from the time we came out of Mitzrayim. Let's take counsel. What should we do? And that's how the parak ends. Okay? Do they just speak, or do they collect and come to action? So let's begin reading parak Kaf, chapter 20. Vayetzu kol bnei Yisrael vatikahel ha'eda ki ish echad limidan ve'ad be'er sheva ve'eretz hagilad el Adonai hamitzpah. This is a very startling opening of a chapter. It's very direct and very precise. Let's analyze it. It says, Kol Bnei Yisrael went out. Okay, when the Tanakh uses the word Kol, it usually means rove, the majority. That means a majority of people got off out of their home, out of their houses, and they collected together, and it says here, an act of unity. Which two words is the act of unity? One is congregating, but there's even a stronger word. What is it? Ki-ish echad. There could be hundreds of thousands of Jews assembling together, and they're considered here ki-ish echad. Is it a one-time matter? Please read through the upcoming psukim and tell me if you see that it just flares out, if it just goes out, or it continues to build momentum. Keep on reading the next perhaps 10 verses and try to identify a term to see, is the air coming out of the balloon, or do we see continued unity? What are you seeing, Michael? Find the words in the Tanakh in Hebrew. Which pasuk do you come up with first? Gentlemen? Who finds another term? Huh? Which pasuk? No, that bet. Okay, so you see in verse 2 that all the tribes of Israel, that's right. But what about unity? Where do you see unity, further unity? Keep on looking. No, something that's even more clear, that's showing that everyone is collected together. Which pasuk? Beautiful. In verse 8, Vayakom kol ha'am ki ish echad. Wow. Do you see that in pasuk chet? Yes? Okay. Keep on going. Maybe the air now is going to come out of the balloon. Do you see another pasuk? Which pasuk? That's what he just read in Chet. Which pasuk are you reading? I see one more. Very good. Yud Aleph. What does it say? Shaya, read it. Vayasef. Wow. 3 times the Tanakh emphasizes that the nation of Israel is totally united. You know, if you get 10 Jews in a synagogue, you usually have 11 opinions, right? But here, wow, they're all united. United to do what? And that's what we want to read. Let's read about the reaction. So first of all, is the representation from just a central area. Let's go back to the beginning of the chapter. The Tanakh, when it wants to describe expanse of the country from the north to the south, we have an idiom, an expression, from Dan until Beersheba. Dan here is where we were hiking under the Hermon Mountains, right? The Dan River that leads to the Jordan River, one of the sources of the Jordan, to the Kinneret. So that's up north, all the way down to Beersheba. I mean, all the tribes are coming together from all across the country, including Eretz HaGilad. Remember where Eretz HaGilad is? On the other side of the Jordan River, east of the Jordan River, the Giladi Mountains. Eliyahu Navi, Eliyahu Tishbi, Eliyahu HaGiladi. B'meira yavo eleinu, amen. Say that? Right? So we have representation also from the tribes on the other side of the Jordan. Where are they gathering together, please? El Hashem HaMitzpah. I don't understand. What is mitzpah and why is it called El Hashem? El Hashem BaMitzpah. I'm a good friend of a former mayor of the city of Beit El, the town of Beit El. He was a student of my dear father-in-law in Yeshiva High School in Or Etzion. And he would show me, this is a story of about 30 years ago, when we're driving before the Oslo Accord, when we used to drive on the old road connecting French Hill to the Atarot Airport, and from the Atarot Airport through El Bira and then to Beit El, he would tell me this area is called Mitzpah. And if you would stand in that area and look towards Yerushalayim, you would get really a great view of Yerushalayim. He thinks, or he learned, so we're talking a place midway between Beit El and Yerushalayim, a place that you can view Mitzpah. Now, why is Hashem there? It says El Hashem BaMitzpah. The answer is, when there is a congregation of so many Jews in one place, that's like a divine revelation. It's as if the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is there. Okay? And because there's so much unity and so many Jews in one area, that's considered. They're coming to react with values, with ideas. How will they react? So it says here in Pasuk Bet, Vayityatzvu pinot kol ha'am, all parts of the nation, all heads of the nation, Kol Shiftei Yisrael, all the tribes, Bikal, Am Elokim, they realize they're a divine nation, they're coming there for a divine purpose. What a conglomeration. Arba meod elef ish, Ragli Sholev Charav. It's not just 400,000 people, it's 400,000 infantry. And everyone has so it's not Avon calling that they're coming to distribute cosmetics here, but rather it seems that they're ready to go to war against fellow Jews. Is this justified? Is this right? Is it proper? Do they hear testimony? Let's keep on reading. Pasuk Gimel. Vayishmu b'nei Binyamin. Now, B'nai Binyamin hear what's going on. They hear there's traffic in Eretz Yisrael. Ki alu v'nei Yisrael ha-mitzpah. B'nai Yisrael from all over the country have gone to an area called Mitzpah. Mitzpah is in or next to the Benjamin area. We're talking a few kilometers away from the town called Givah, not more. To my understanding, Mitzpah is just a few kilometers north of Givah. Let's see, on the way to Beit El. Vayomru b'nei Yisrael, dabru, speak. Leader, speak. Tell us what happened. Eicha niyata arazot. Everyone got in the mill. Every tribe got in the mill. Unfortunately, the pieces of the body of this woman that was raped, abused, and eventually died. And they want to know, how did it come? How did it happen? Answer. Who's going to give testimony? Who can only give testimony?
This man.
Pasuk Daled, verse 4. Vayana Isha Levi, Ish, the man of Haisha Hanirtzacha, the woman that was murdered. Notice the Nif'al. Vayomar, and he says the following. Hagivat Asher leBinyamin, Bati, I I arrived there. Ani Ufilakshi Lalun. I arrived there with this Pilegesh woman for the purpose of lodging there overnight. We couldn't make it at home to the Ephraim Mountains. We only left Beit Lechem in the afternoon hours. And what happened to me? Pasuk 5. Vayakumu alai ba'alei Givah. Vayasobu alai, they surrounded me. At Tabayit, the house that we're staying in, Laila during the nighttime. Oti dimu laharog. Vet pilakshi inu vatamot. Analyze this pasuk, please, and tell me what you think or say about this testimony. Read it again. It's what?
How we learned. We did see that they threatened to kill him.
Oh, so number one, he says that they intended oti dimula haro. They intended to kill me. So you're saying, is it true what Matanya is saying? We didn't see that. Did they threaten the lives of the people in the house? Did you see? Go back when they demand to please take out the man out of the house. Which pasuk are we in? Which pasuk are we in? Here, pasuk kafet 22. 22. Do you see a threat of death? What about threat of violence? It says, take out the man that came to your house and we're going to have relations with him. Is there violence? A threat of violence?
Sexual violence.
No, do you see a threat of violence to the man that's being hosted? What about, okay, no, not violence. To have relations with him. That's not violence. That's adultery. It's a terrible abomination. But he's now saying that what? My life was threatened. That's number one. Number two, then he says, Vet pilakshi inu vatamot. Translate those last three words. Vet pilakshi inu vatamot. My concubine, they abused. Vatamot. And she died. What do you notice in these words? What does it seem to the listener when he hears the three words? Et pilakshi inu vatamot.
And they're the ones who killed her.
The word kill doesn't state here. It says vatamot.
She died because they tormented her.
She died because she was so tormented. She died because she was so abused. It was the...
So before it says she gets tzakah.
Right. And in Pasuk Dalet it says the woman that was murdered. Is that precise or exact? Was she murdered? And now he's saying, Et pilakshi inu vatamot. You understand that her mita, her death came when? After or right after? In the following of the words, Pilakshi inu vatamot. It means right after. It means that the event succeeded one after the other. Is that accurate? Why is that not accurate, Michal?
She didn't die until the next morning.
She didn't die until the next morning. In fact, she got to the house. She wanted to go in. No one opened for her. She maybe didn't knock. And she dropped there. And then he put her on the donkey. And apparently she died. But did she die directly after the abuse? What could that mean halachically for us? As far as the violation of the Ten Commandments, lo tirtzach. How is lo tirtzach explained in the oral Torah?
Cause of blow that kills me.
The immediate cause of death is lo tirtzach, the immediate cause. What happens if it's not immediate? If it could be hours later, then that is the indirect cause. Is that important in halakha? Are you allowed to kill someone indirectly? Are you allowed to indirectly cause the death of someone? Yes or no?
No, it's not.
But so it's not. Is it prohibited? Is a violation of the Torah to indirectly cause someone's death? Yes. Will someone be obligated the violation of lo tirtzach if he causes the indirect death? No. According to the testimony, it seems here of Mr. Levi, he is not precise. Okay, he's not precise. So we found two inconsistencies. One is they threatened to kill me, and number two, they caused her death. Can anyone find a third inconsistency? This third inconsistency might be even the most critical one. In Pasuk 5. Vayakumu alai balei Givah.
Who's Vaisakumi?
But they surrounded us. No, they were not Yevusim. They were Jews from the town of Givah. What does he call them? Who came surrounded me? Baalei Givah. Who's Baalei Givah?
All of those.
The people of the city. And not who? Anshe Belial. In other words, he makes it very clear it wasn't this splinter group of people called Anshe, these ruthless, lawless people called Anshe Belial. They were townspeople of the Givah. Is that accurate or not? That's not accurate. Meaning, everyone is like this. The owners, the townspeople of Givah. So this too is not accurate. And now, let's continue reading what he says in verse 6. Va'ochez befilakshe. Try to put your finger on the place and follow. I seized on to my Pilegesh, va'anatchea, and I cut her up. Va'shalchea, I sent her bechos day nachalat. I sent her, to the areas, the fields of the inheritance of all of Israel. Ki asu zima unevala b'Yisrael. They did a sexual crime and an abomination in Israel. Notice what he's meaning to say in verse 6 is that, after she died, I did this, which is correct, but he misrepresented that they killed her. Pasuk Zayin, Hine kolchem b'nei Yisrael. Okay, hear ye, 400,000 Jews collected in this place called Mitzpah. You now hear the testimony. What do you say? Havu lechem davar ve'etzah. Would you give advice? Halom. What is halom? Here, give advice here. Let's go. Right now, we must make a decision. Are you going to stand on the soapbox and speak? Are you going to stand on the soapbox and speak? Who's going to what should we do? Now, of the 400,000 people, we have scholars and middlemen and low men. All types of parts of Israel are there. And they hear the testimony. Now, Parshat Shavua. In capital law, what is incumbent upon the court of Israel upon hearing testimony? No, what is incumbent on the court related to the witnesses? Sheven drishot v'chakira. The Mishnah in Sanhedrin explains that the two witnesses are to be interrogated, investigated separately in separate rooms, 7 different questions to see if indeed their testimony is harmonious or not, to see are they compatible or not. And that's what the Beit Din has to decide in order to execute capital law. What happens here? Pasuk Chet, verse 8. Vayakom kol ha'am ki ish echad lemor. The second time that you noticed. Lo neilech ish li'aholo v'lo nasur ish leveito. No one's leaving. Everyone here has to act together. What? What are they, I mean, they came with their swords. What are they assuming? What are they suggesting? What type of action has to be taken? To go to war. To go. Now, before you go to war, shouldn't you request judgment? Now, in order to give judgment, who has to be present? They should be summoned. And now, this is what we have to do. Meaning, we have to take judgment. Aleba goral. I mean, we're going to do take the law into our hands. They're ready for calling for war. That's basic. It's clear according to the Pesukim. The question is, who's going to go first? Will it be your unit? Will it be your unit? You're from Shimon. You're from Yehuda. You're from Naphtali. You're from Asher. Who's going to go in there first? Let's do a goral. Let's do a lottery. Okay, let's take names of tribes, put them on pieces of paper, put it inside a hat or something, and let's see who comes out. Pasuk Yud. V'lakachnu asara nashim lamea. For every 100 of us, let's take 10 of them. L'chol shiftei Yisrael u'mea la'elef. From every 1,000, we'll take 100. La'elef l'rvava. 1,000 every 10,000. L'kachat tzeidah. You're in charge of the warehouse, aren't you? Would you please give us Afsanai? He's working Afsanot. Give us, please, the weapons. Give us some bullets. Give us some uniforms. Give us some tuna, green peas and carrots, cans.
What warehouse is this?
You're the army warehouse. Give us tzeidah. We need food. We need what do we need? Okay? La'am la'asot levoam leGivah Binyamin. But they're accusing Givah Binyamin. Kichol ha'nevala asher asa b'Yisrael. We need to go right now into the city of Givah Binyamin. Givah and Givah are the same. Notice we have a new name now, Givah Binyamin. Givah. When you travel on the bus going into the Benjamin area, and you spent Shabbat by Rabbi Miller, you said? No, not you? There is a yeshuv, the first yeshuv when you come into the eastern side of Benjamin called Adam, Yeshuv Adam, and it's otherwise called Givah Binyamin. Why is it called Givah Binyamin? We want to thank the Arabs that live across the street. Why do we thank the Arabs? Because the Arabs have done a very good job over hundreds of years of preserving Tanakhic names of the land of Israel. Quiz me and ask me, what is the name of the Arab town opposite Givah Binyamin? It's called Jabba. Gimel, how do the Ammonites pronounce a Gimel Degusha? Borei Priha? How? Hajofen? Hajofen. Borei Priha Hajofen. Have you heard of the Yemenite? So the Jabba is Geva. So they're ready to go in to do whatever they want to do to Givah Binyamin, the town, all of the town, and not only the Bnei Belial. What happens? Do they listen to this suggestion? Let's collect 100 out of every 1,000. Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vayasef kol ish Yisrael el ha'ir, ke'ish echad chaverim. They're equal. Everyone is equal. They're ready to go. Okay? They're ready to go. Right now, Israel is in a state of zealousness, and their entire congregation is together, and they're now judging the entire town as a town of people that are like heretics. Everyone goes against the Torah, and they basically want to punish the entire city. They want to punish the entire city. Now, is there such a law for the Jewish people? Can a court punish unlawfully? The Rav say yes?
Yes. I hope that jives what you were saying.
My dear friends, we learn from the Talmud, and it's brought to the Rambam, that if there is a need to punish in order to teach people a lesson, then if we have a king, the king can make that decision. If we have Klal Yisrael, led by a high court like the Sanhedrin, they too can make the decision. They are like instead of a king. And they can kill unlawfully in order to teach a lesson. It seems here that they're making a decision to punish the entire city, even though maybe only a few are really the obstacles, are the people that violated, and they're ready to do it. But we didn't see interrogation. Did we see the defense? Were they questioned? Did we order the Bnei Bilial? Maybe they have something to say. They're not. And there's only one witness. Very interesting. So we have a situation which is really not a good situation.
How do you explain that it says the children of Binyamin heard that Israel was mitzvah?
Which pasuk you are?
So this is Yishmael bnei Binyamin.
How did they hear?
No, I'm saying it's not. To me, we were talking about it. It seemed like they weren't even invited to the thing, to the group. But it could be that when they heard, and they just didn't respond, as if they called and said, "Come, send your explanation," and they.
So that we're going to get to right now in verse 13.
Aren't Shoftim like part of the Rabbi?
They're members of the town of Givah.
Are they of the tribe? Binyamin?
They're part of the tribe of Benjamin. Unlawful Jews that don't respect law whatsoever, full of lust and desires. Now let's see the summoning. Ken, did you ever get in the mail? You were summoned to court? Your father deals with all these things all the time, right? What? You were summoned to court once?
Can't say I have.
You have?
Did we call for jury duty? 7 times.
You were called to court 7 times?
Jury duty.
Jury duty? What is that, volunteering duty?
No, you're required to by law.
By law. If
Lottery, they get called all the time.
I see you were called 7 times? And you went? 7 times?
I was living in Las Vegas.
You also did jury duty?
I never went, but I was called.
No.
You were called?
From Las Vegas. They called us at college for 3 of them, and then I was here before them.
But only to do it inside the city, not to go to Baltimore or Maryland or something.
If you don't live in the city, you can't. Like you're not required.
Okay. So let's see here the summoning. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Right? Vayasef kol ish Yisrael el ha'ir ki ish echad chavrim. They're so unified. They're all collected together. The army's ready. Pasuk Yud Bet. Vayishlechu shiftei Yisrael anashim. Bechol shiftei binyan lemor. Ma razot asher niyata bachem. What's going on? V'ata in verse 13. Tenu et anashim b'nei Bilial. Here they are. They're summoning Hanashim b'nei Bilial. They're asking the Benjamin people, the Benjamin court, hand over Bnei Bilial. We're only asking for them, Asher b'Givah. And what are we going to do to them? Unimitem. But that doesn't sound fair. They can't. We're going to kill them. They're not what? Being investigated. Univara ra'a mi Yisrael. What was the answer of Binyamin? Velo avu b'nei Binyamin lishma b'kol achayim b'nei Yisrael. So, gentlemen, there is a request to hand over the hooligans. And what's the response of the tribe of Binyamin? What do you mean? Why are they handing them over? It seems that they are, what is it called, corroborating with them? Is that the term? Collaborating with them. Not collaborating them, but they're collaborating with them. They're protecting them. They're not handing them over. Wouldn't it be proper to hand them over? Maybe they'll be tried, this or that. But we see here that you can't really perform death against them, but you can at least ask them to come. Now, let me ask you something. In a court of Torah law, could you prosecute the Bnei Belial? Yes or no?
No,
Why not?
because there was only one witness.
I don't even know there's a witness. He was sleeping inside the house, wasn't
There
he?
wasn't even a witness.
So there's not even one witness. Can you be chayav from din Torah, dinei mamanot, monetary matters, or dinei nefashot, if you don't have edut? Furthermore, we said that she did not die as a direct result, but indirectly as time passed over during the course of the night. Now, in order to be obligated death, intention, kavanah, has to be there. Was their intention to kill this girl? To abuse her? To lifrok et hayitzarim shela. They wanted to outlet their lust and desires by abusing her. So number one, they didn't have intention to kill her. And number two, she didn't die directly as a result. Okay? And furthermore, they released her. As dawn was coming up, she was released and she comes to her master's house, and it's a terrible thing. So what we're seeing here is right now is that the people of the nation of Israel are making a grave mistake. Their grave mistake is that without undermining the terrible thing that they did to this woman, we don't have testimony. This Levi giving the testimony is not precise or exact. And like you said, there's a lack of investigation and interrogation in order to bring about these matters. Now, all this is taken into account, yet they don't stop themselves. And we're asking ourselves, the fellow Jews of Bnei Binyamin, they're not any better. They could prevent a civil war had they handed over maybe these people, right or not right. But why aren't they allowing a court order to come into fruition here? Why? Anyone have an idea why they don't hand them over? What could the people of Binyamin sense right now about their brothers all over the country? Who's
victim of an injustice because the verdict is
okay? They feel a sense of injustice. Furthermore, who is really litigated in the beginning? Who's prosecuted? Who deserves din? The entire city of Givah. That's also unlawful. That's not right. So maybe they sense or feel. I read an understanding that one of my rabbis, Rav Eli Mali, the Rosh Yeshiva of Yafo, that maybe the people of Binyamin sense that there's like an aliyum? How do you say what is it called an aliyum? When you wanna charge the entire city instead of taking this, it's like a collective punishment on everyone here. Aliyum, nochon? A lynch. That's the word. A lynch. What? In English, yeah. They sense maybe all the tribes of Israel want to commit a lynch against the entire town of Givah. We're not going to let you, prosecute all of us. And
Why do we say that?
because they wanted to say that Lasot Levoam Legeva Binyamin.
It says the next pasuk, 2 pasukim later, 13.
You're right. Then they're asking to hand them over. But beforehand, they made their decision in verse 9. What are we going to do to Givah? Let's take a go round. They're talking as if all of the people in Givah deserve the most terrible thing to happen to them. So we now meet up with stubbornness of Bnei Binyamin. We meet with unlawful methods of litigation by the tribes of Israel. We're meeting up with stubbornness that the people of Binyamin are not handing over because they think that they're all being prosecuted. Okay? And now, let's see what happens. Pasuk Yudal, verse 14. Vayasvu b'nei Binyamin min arim hagivata. Look at this. From all the villages in Binyamin, the Jews of Binyamin gather in the town of Givah. Why are they gathering? They're getting into defense positions to prevent the attack by let's see how many thousands of people. Okay? Let's say la milchama b'nei Yisrael. Pasuk Tedvav. Vayitpakdu b'nei Binyamin. They counted the soldiers there. I assume they counted the soldiers with their half shekels or something else. We're in verse 15. Vayitpakdu v'nei Binyamin bayumahu me'arim. All the cities of the Benjamin. Okay? How many? Esrim v'shisha elef ish sholef charev. 26,000. In addition to Levad b'yoshvei Givah yitpakdu 700 ish bachor. Givah is it's a nice village. You have 700 young soldiers there. I can imagine maybe a few tens of thousands of people in the town if you can get 700 young boys there. Yeah? So it's a nice sized town. So you have 26,700 soldiers representing Binyamin, and all this is going up against who? How many people of Am Yisrael? 400,000. But really they wanted to take 10%. Remember, they wanted to take 10%, so that's 40,000. Who are you betting on? 40,000 or the 26,700? Huh? Unfortunately, it's a very sad story here. What are we told about the soldiers? Shalom Aleichem. Talk to you in a moment.
I can't. I'm leaving for a wedding. I'm leaving from the yeshiva.
Yofe. Chodesh Tov, Moshe. Okay? Mikol ha'am hazeh. In verse 16, of all these soldiers, Shva ma'ot ish bachor iter yad yamino. Here's a very strange or interesting phenomenon, a strange genetical phenomenon, as if their right hands are in a crutch, as if their right hands are suspended, and they're lefties. They can't use their right hands. They're all lefties. They're called iter yad yamino. Kol ze koleh be'even ala sha'ara velo yachti. We have 700 left-hand sharpshooters, tzalafim, from the city of Givah. Wow. Interesting that it mentions. Anyone remember mentioning of this in the Sefer Shoftim? There was also an iter yad yamino. He was a lefty. Ehud ben Gera, very good. Ehud ben Gera surprised the king of Moab, this fat king, and he goes in to his chamber and he assassinates him and he surprises him with his left hand. Okay. Pasuk Yud Zayin, V'ish Yisrael hitpakdu levad mi Binyamin 400,000 ish sholef charav. So it's not only 40,000, I was mistaken, it's 400,000. Kol ze ish milchama. These 400,000 people are not just any youngsters. They're 400 ish milchama, experienced men of war. So here we have a terrible setup. Jews against Jews. Not one against one, not two against two. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of Jews ready to kill and punish the city and all Jews that have arrived there. Okay, what's the next stage? Pasuk Yudchet. Vayakumu vayalu. What's the name of the place? Beit El. Vayishalu ve'elohim. They ask at God in Beit El. It says, well, it doesn't say Vayalu El Beit El. It says Vayalu Beit El. And they're asking God. What does it suggest? How are they asking? Through what device? The Urim V'Tumim. Wow. Let me just try to think and remember. Who's wearing the Urim V'Tumim? What is his mailing address? Shiloh. Shiloh no or Shiloh yes? Shiloh yes. Right? You said Shiloh no. Urim V'Tumim. Good question. When we learn in Shemot chapter 28, the articles of clothing of the high priest, one of the articles of clothing is the Choshen Mishpat, the breastplate, which is a double fold. And inside this double fold is an insert of parchment with the name of God. And that would be inside the fold. And then, if national questions of importance would be raised to the Kohen Gadol, and if God responded through this agency, letters of the stones of the Kohen Gadol would light up. And I think it's a little harder than the New York Times crossword puzzle. He would have to unravel and understand these letters and so on and so forth. But the question is, why is it Beit El? So you may notice it doesn't say that they went up le. The prefix le, Beit El, does not appear. It just Vayalu Beit El. They went the house of God. The house of God meaning in Shiloh. So that could be the meaning. They traveled from the Benjamin area, maybe 10, 12 kilometers going north, maybe a little more, 15 kilometers from the area, and they want to ask God a question. What's their question? Vayomru b'nei Yisrael, mi ya'aleh lanu batchila? Who's going to be the initial attacker? There's obvious not enough room for 400,000 soldiers to go into the town of Givah. So maybe let's just take a tribe. Who's going to do it? Mi ya'aleh lanu batchila lemilchama im b'nei Binyamin? Vayomer Adonai Yehuda vatchila. Okay. Read the next few psukim. And the war starts. Which tribe is the chalutz? Who's the initial attacker? The tribe of Yehuda. And what happens, unfortunately? A terrible, terrible loss. How many soldiers die from the tribe of the attackers? How many? 20,000, 22,000 die. So what's your question? Didn't Hashem say Yehuda should attack? So with this we'll start tomorrow, God willing, B'ezrat Hashem. We'll learn some kuzari right now.